Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are embarking on a really fascinating intellectual journey. We're putting two absolute heavyweights of 18th century literature head to head, Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe and Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels. Now, why compare these two? Well, it's because these masterpieces offer drastically opposing views on human progress, society, and our whole place in the universe. When you put them side by side, it's honestly like a prodigious chemical reaction. They reveal some profound, timeless truths about who we are as humans. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. 1. Two travelers, two worldviews. 2. Work, wealth, and pride. 3. Facing the alien other. 4. Science, language, and irony. 5. Intimacy, sex, and isolation. And finally, 6. The mirror of modernity. Let's jump right into Section 1. Two travelers, two worldviews, the original and the satirical copy. To really understand the core difference between these two books, we have to start with a massive fundamental question. Are we the masters of the natural world, or are we just an insignificant plaything within it? This single question divides our two authors completely. It sets up this epic clash between Defoe's supreme human confidence on one side and Swift's deep, deep existential pessimism on the other. Their baseline difference is crystal clear. Defoe's Crusoe is what you'd call an anthropocentric hero. He literally believes man is at the center of the world. He acts as the undisputed lord and owner of his island, using his rational will to totally dominate his environment and basically recreate the society he left behind. On the flip side, you've got Swift repeatedly showing Gulliver being completely humbled by nature. Gulliver is constantly at the mercy of the elements. He's treated like a literal plaything, annoyed by rats and giant insects, and at one point he's even squeezed and treated like a baby by a giant monkey. Swift uses these brutal physical humiliations to just relentlessly mock our claim to be the kings of nature. Moving on to Section 2, Work, Wealth, and Pride, the Protestant ethic versus the deflation of vanity. Consider the number 36. Get this, when Crusoe is shipwrecked, he salvages exactly 36 pounds in currency from the wreckage. He has this dramatic moment where he looks at the cash and says, "O drug, what art thou good for?" But then, upon second thought, he pockets it anyway. Crusoe is a total proto-capitalist. He keeps this incredibly strict journal to document his daily return on investment. He literally carves notches in a cross to track time because, hey, time is money, and he maintains a relentless, ongoing accounting of all his resources. So the crucial takeaway here is that Defoe essentially equates relentless work with God's grace. For Crusoe, living under the Protestant ethic, laboring to transform the world is a divine calling. Turning a profit and having a surplus of goods, that actually proves you're on the right spiritual track, which allows Crusoe to build up this impenetrable inner spiritual fortress. Swift, however, looks at that exact same human ambition and decides to just utterly deflate it. He uses his razor-sharp satire to strip away all that human vanity, suggesting that our pride in our little accomplishments is, frankly, completely absurd. As Defoe wrote in another of his famous novels, Moll Flanders, with money in the pocket, one is at home everywhere. And honestly, that perfectly captures Crusoe's mercantilist mindset. Everything in Crusoe's world is evaluated purely for its commodity value. Nature isn't there to be admired or respected, it's just raw material, there to be exploited and transformed into a profitable spreadsheet. All right, Section 3, Facing the Alien Other, Colonialism and the Unknown. When these two travelers actually step off the boat and meet new people, their approaches to the other literally couldn't be more different. Crusoe is entirely Anglo-centric. He doesn't bother learning native languages. Instead, he teaches his parrot and his companion Friday to speak English. He views native people purely as manpower or commodities, and he readily engages in the slave trade without a single crisis of conscience. He completely embraces the role of the unquestioned imperialist executioner. Gulliver, on the other hand, is endlessly curious. He actively translates local languages wherever he goes, carefully observing and comparing cultures. Through Gulliver, Swift is issuing a severe, biting critique of European conquest. And Swift accomplishes this critique largely through a brilliant technique called defamiliarization, or struniamento. It's the artistic technique of presenting common things in a totally unfamiliar way to force you to see them freshly and critically. Swift uses this to strip away all the polite euphemisms of his day. He shows us that what European empires proudly call rectification of frontiers or pacification is actually, when you look at it objectively from an outsider's perspective, just mass murder, robbery, and the blowing up of bodies. He forces us to look at our own so-called normal atrocities with totally fresh, horrified eyes.
Let's shift gears to section 4, science, language, and irony. The trust in reason versus the critique of hubris.
Crusoe represents Defoe's absolute, unshakable optimism. He uses pragmatic science and engineering to bake bread, build shelters, and just survive. He believes reason solves everything, full stop. Swift, being highly pessimistic, argues that humans actually only possess a tiny pittance of reason, and worse, we usually just use it to aggravate our natural vices. I mean, think about when Gulliver visits the Academy of Legato. He finds these completely out-of-touch professors building absurd, useless computers to write books automatically, or proposing to abolish spoken language entirely. Swift is sending us a massive warning here. Scientific progress without moral wisdom is just dangerous folly. To really drive this absurdity home, Swift employs another genius literary device, the literalization of metaphor. This is where a figurative phrase is made physically and literally real within the story. For example, we constantly talk figuratively about the funambulism, the precarious political balancing acts of politicians. Well, in the land of Lilliput, Swift makes this literal. High-ranking government jobs are literally awarded to whoever can walk the best on a physical tightrope. It's a hilarious physical manifestation of how absurd our political institutions can be. And this next part is just great. There's a passage that hilariously defamiliarizes Gulliver's pocket watch through the eyes of the tiny Lilliputians. They see this noisy, ticking machine and assume it must be Gulliver's god, because he never does anything without checking it first. Here, Swift is directly mocking the modern mercantilist obsession with punctuality. He takes the new capitalist time discipline, the whole idea that time is money, and reduces it to a bizarre, super noisy form of idol worship. Moving right along to Section 5, Intimacy, Sex, and Isolation, from economic devaluation to physical desublimation. No, what's really striking here is that neither text actually celebrates human intimacy, like at all. Crusoe simply devalues it entirely. For him, family and emotional relationships are just distractions from productivity and economic utility. His sole focus is maintaining his isolated inner fortress of work and faith. Gulliver's isolation, however, stems from intense physical and moral disgust. By the end of his travels, after confronting all the ugly realities of humanity, he is so totally repulsed that he rejects his own family and decides he'd rather live in the stable with wise horses. Swift forces this visceral disgust upon the reader through intense physical satire. Whether it's Gulliver putting out a palace fire with his own urine, being manhandled like a toy by a monkey, or looking at the nauseating, microscopic details of a giant's skin pores, Swift aggressively humbles our romanticized self-image. It all culminates in this horrifying realization that humans are essentially kin to the barbaric, filthy yahoos. It is a total, unapologetic physical desublimation of human pride. Okay, let's bring this all home in Section 6, The Mirror of Modernity, Reflections on Today's World. Because, the tension between Defoe and Swift isn't just dusty history. It is the exact same conversation we are having about modern technology today. Crusoe believes that individual enterprise, relentless work, and technology are going to save us. Swift, meanwhile, is over here warning us that our machines might just magnify our absolute worst vices and strip away our humanity entirely. When you really look at it, our modern world largely operates on Crusoe's energetic blueprint. We are completely obsessed with unending economic expansion, individual productivity, and the firm belief that our tools guarantee control. But at the very same time, we are increasingly haunted by Swift's legacy. We feel this profound sense of alienation, we hold deep skepticism toward our political institutions, and we constantly worry that our rapid technological progress, much like those automatic writing machines in Legato, is actually just driving us straight toward folly. The philosopher Blaise Pascal famously noted that all the unhappiness of men arises from one single fact, that they cannot stay quietly in their room. Crusoe vehemently rejects this idea. He busts out of his room to conquer the globe, determined to transform the raw wilderness into a spreadsheet of pure profit. But Gulliver, he ends his epic journey so traumatized by what he's learned about the human condition that he can barely stand to be in a room with his own species. George Orwell once argued with Swift's ghost, pointing out that scientific research did produce tangible results and that modern machine civilization obviously brings us great physical comforts. But Swift's ultimate nagging question remains. Has all of this machinery added anything to true wisdom or true refinement? Have our machines actually made us better people, or are we just becoming more efficient yahoos? It's a truly profound choice, and it challenges every single one of us today. Are we blindly following Crusoe's map, building these isolated island fortresses of endless productivity while completely ignoring the human cost? Or are we brave enough to adopt Gulliver's critical eye, to take a step back, defamiliarize our world, and question the very machinery of progress itself? So I'll leave you with this. Whose map are you truly following as you navigate your own modern voyage?